Shopify Masters is powered by Shopify, the easiest way to sell online, in person, and anywhere in between. To get an extended 30-day trial, visit shopify.com/masters.
A lot of times you get quicker results if you really just change the entire thing up and change the photo, even just change the product that you're showing.
Hey, my name is Felix. I'm the host of Shopify Masters. Each week, we learn the keys to success from e-commerce experts and entrepreneurs like you. In this episode, you'll learn how to take advantage of and outlive a trend, the advantages of buying ads in traditional media, and how to work backwards to test an ad. Today, I'm joined by Megan Bush from Kopari Beauty. Kopari Beauty is passionate about products that make you look gorgeous with ingredients that make you feel great. And was started in 2015 and based out of San Diego, California. Welcome, Megan.
Thanks, Felix.
Yes, tell us a little bit more about Kopari Beauty and some of the popular products that you sell.
Absolutely. So Kopari Beauty sells coconut oil-based beauty products. And our hero product is our coconut melt, which is 100% organic coconut oil. So for those of you who've heard about coconut oil, it's got amazing multitasking properties, both for health and beauty. And what we've really done with all of our products at Kopari is take coconut oil to the next level by adding all natural ingredients that really just boost those benefits of coconut oil for beauty purposes.
Awesome. So where did this idea come from? Like how did you and the team, I guess, start going down this avenue?
Yeah, so actually, it's kind of a funny story. Kopari has 4 founders, and the founders basically all came up with a similar concept for coconut oil beauty company, and came to a common friend with the same idea within like a week of each other, and that common friend introduced everyone to each other, and they kind of said, you know what, this is so weird that we all had this idea at the same time. Why don't we all join forces and launch a brand out of it?
Yeah, that's funny that all the founders came up with the idea at the same time. So once they all met and decided that this was a great idea, we all came up with this idea. What were the first steps? How do you begin to take this idea? Maybe we'll start there. Like, what was the idea itself? Like, was it just to create, or you can explain to me, what was the idea when they all came together? What was the idea that they wanted to pursue?
Well, they definitely all wanted to use coconut oil to some degree and use it into different beauty products. So one of the founders wanted to create, hair care. One of them wanted to create skin care. And they all had kind of thought coconut oil is so amazing, both for hair care and skin care and body care. So the idea was to kind of start with one product and really just ramp up with more product lines as the business got rolling. So that's sort of why it's kind of confusing as to who really came up with the idea or how did we really start with this. But once the idea was brought up by multiple people and everyone met each other and decided this is something we really wanted, to start a business on, then it became time to really just start looking out for some beauty labs, actually. So they interviewed a bunch of different beauty labs in the Southern California area, found one that they felt really comfortable with, and they started kind of just the product development at that point. Very quickly, while the product was being developed, they had a lot of conversation about, how are we really going to launch this brand? And they definitely talked a lot about whether they were going to go into distribution through salons and spas, whether they were going to go straight into stores, or whether they were just going to focus online. At that point, when they decided that they really wanted to test the market in the direct-to-consumer channel, and that's when I got brought into the company. So they gave me a call. I had worked with one of the founders years ago on a couple different brands that he had. And I was working for an e-commerce agency, and he called me up and said, you got to come back. We need your help. We need you to help us sell coconut oil-based beauty online.
So I'm assuming you already had a stable job and everything. Someone calls you up and says, we want you to join, a new company, a startup. What made you attracted to the opportunity?
Well, I was working for an e-commerce agency, which I absolutely loved. But when the opportunity kind of fell in my lap, there was 2 things that really drove me to take the job. Number one, the guy who called me, James Brennan, I worked for him for a few different companies that he's had, and he's always had a knack for, spying trends and really doing well with the businesses that he starts. I've been lucky enough to see him be successful and work with him in a lot of those successes. So number one, him, the fact that he was putting this together, I thought that's a great, that's a great brand that I should be a part of, just due to the fact that he's involved himself with it. And number two, working for different agencies, I love digital marketing. I've been doing it for my entire career, and I really wanted to work in-house for one brand to kind of get a full circle view of what the digital marketing really entails. So when working for agencies, you're always only seeing a piece of the business and never full circle exactly what's going on as far as even just inventory management and fulfillment services and kind of how these different offline channels really affect the online sales. So that was really attractive to me. And I thought that's definitely something that I could learn from. And so that was ultimately why I decided to join the company.
So like you're mentioning before, all of the founders wanted to do something with coconut oil. You saw that these founders that were starting the business had an eye and understood or ready to take on opportunities in the marketplace. Talk a little bit more about this. What did they see in the market that made them decide that this was the direction to go in? What did they see about coconut oil specifically?
Coconut oil, it's been a very buzzworthy trend for the past couple of years. I had personally, when they called me up, a couple of years ago, I had personally already heard of it, and I had been using it just as a body moisturizer. I'd use it for something called oil pulling, and it's this amazing ingredient that you can really use for cooking. You can use it for your hair, your skin, your body, etc. There's a lot of buzz around it, especially in like the health and beauty space. If you're kind of follow any blogs or any, influencers in social media, everyone seems to be talking about it. Mm-hmm. And I think what they found was a void in the space, because a lot of people, so you can buy a jar of coconut oil in a grocery store. And basically what all the founders were experiencing, and I think a lot of people out there were experiencing, that you go and you buy this jar of coconut oil on the grocery store shelves. You take it home, you start cooking with it, then you realize what an amazing moisturizer it is, and you take it into your bathroom and you use it as a moisturizer, and then you take it, and you oil pull with it, and then you take it back to the kitchen and you cook with it, and it starts to get a little bit like confusing what this product is actually for. Is it a beauty product? Is it a health product? What are you actually doing with this? And so a lot of people have been focused on the beauty or on the health aspects of coconut oil, and it seems as though there was a void in the market to really talk about the actual beauty aspects of coconut oil. And how can we take this amazing ingredient and actually make it easier to use as a body moisturizer, and make it easier to use as a skin as a hair mask, and make it easier to use as a flyaway tamer and as a makeup remover, and kind of all these amazing uses that you can do with coconut oil. How can we really amplify those benefits by incorporating complementary ingredients, and also just make it a much more enjoyable experience and put it in beautiful packaging, and really buy into this kind of tropical lifestyle that we've created?
That makes sense that they recognized that there was a lot of talk about the health aspects, but then there was this gap where there wasn't that much focus on the beauty angle of coconut oil. But how did they know that it was the beauty angle that was going to be the one that was the best business to build on?
I think just the pure makeup of coconut oil in general. I mean, it's not just like a product that makes you beautiful. It actually is. Its core has this lauric acid, which is something that's found in almost no ingredient in nature. And so if you just like kind of study the chemistry of the coconut oil molecules, it's something that just doesn't really exist. And I think they realize that there's something unique about this, and they're able to, the oils are very popular in beauty right now. And coconut oil is something that's it's so universal. Everybody's heard of coconut. Everybody recognizes what coconut is, whether it be the smell or the taste or whatever. So they knew that it had, mass potential to really go out and get the attention of a lot of people. I think that, for women, having something that's multitasking and something that they're able to use for multiple uses is so beneficial, because, I mean, if you look at most girls' beauty counters, they have so many products. And so to have something that's sitting on that counter of your bathroom that's not only beautiful in the jar, but also something that can be applied to multiple areas like your hair, your face, your body, etc. It just makes so much sense. It simplifies things. It makes your life a little bit easier, especially when you're traveling and you want to throw something in your bag. You don't have to pack all these different products for all these different uses. You can really take this one core product and use it for so many different things. And I think that was really attractive to them.
Now, do you think it's possible to reverse engineer this process that the founders went through, where they're able to identify a rising trend and then finding a new way to kind of package it and bring it to market?
That's a great question. Reverse engineering the process. I would say that I wish I could give more insight into that. I think that, just knowing, you have to kind of just pay attention, as simple as that sounds. But I think paying attention and really recognizing when there's, if you hear something repeatedly, you're paying attention to what the bloggers are saying, to what the influencers are saying, and then you're having, I wish I could answer better that, but I'm not really sure how I would do that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that makes sense, that you want to pay attention to kind of what the influencers, the blogs, what they're talking about. Now, did the founders themselves, did they have experience in the beauty space? Like, how much experience do they have to create a product like this?
Yeah. So one of the founders and the CEO, Bryce Goldman, he actually was, kind of born and raised into the beauty space. He has a family beauty distribution store. With spas and salons in them. So he's been familiar with with beauty products. So I think that's been really helpful, because he's been kind of watching coconut oil and different trends within the beauty space for years. And so, and waiting for someone to come out with this really great product that would highlight this, that would highlight coconut oil. And when nothing came, I think that's where he really saw his opportunity to build a brand around it.
Now, how do you I guess manage a product, a brand like this that is a trendy product, like you were mentioning before? It's become very popular in more recent years, and it only seems to be getting more and more popular. But is there a point where it's going to taper off? Like, how do you kind of manage that potential outcome?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question, and it's certainly something that we've discussed internally. But I truly believe that if a product has the efficacy, if it works, if it's just a very good product and a good brand, I think it outlives all of the hype and kind of buzz that's generated around it. And that's another reason why we're so focused on taking this ingredient and adding other ingredients that definitely improve the efficacy of it and the performance of it, so that it's not just one ingredient and it's not just a fad or a hype. It's something that's going to live on forever, because it truly is that amazing. It's not something that is ever going to go away. It's actually been used for beauty and health, for centuries in different cultures. And I think it's just recently becoming popular in the United States, but I actually think it's been quite popular in Asia for a long time.
Yeah, I think it's a great example of using a trend to essentially launch a product and to get that visibility. But at the end of the day, you still need to have a product that is going to work. Like you're saying, needs to have efficacy, needs to actually be a product that has value. You can't just ride the trend and kind of be empty once people use a product. It actually has to be effective. And I think that's a great example of, or this is a great example of a product that it has been able to take advantage of a trend, but then of course deliver the value at the end of the day, so that you don't die with the trend if it ever does kind of taper off. So you mentioned that the one of the first steps that the founders had to take was to identify and start working with a beauty lab. Talk to us a little bit more about this. What is a beauty lab?
A beauty lab is someone, basically they're the ones coming up with all of the formulas and making sure that they're safe, and they know what ingredients to be using to create the products that you're looking to create. So we started speaking with a few different beauty labs, it's essentially, an interview process, just like with any vendor you have, and you speak with the team and you determine who kind of understands the vision that you're trying to set forth, and who can come up with the best concepts for your team.
Mm-hmm. And how does the interview process work? How did the team identify which beauty lab to go with?
So I wasn't a part of that process. I actually came on after they had already selected the main beauty lab that they wanted to work with. But I know that they they definitely sat down and met with multiple labs. I think that being in Southern California is kind of a blessing because there are multiple labs that we were able to kind of just drive up and meet with and sit down with and discuss. And I think it's a matter of, not only who you feel really understands the vision of the brand and of the company, but also someone who, is willing to take risk and push limits as far as what they want to do, chemically speaking, to the product.
Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, what does the Beauty Lab deliver to its client?
So the Beauty Lab will come up when we're looking to launch new products or when we're working on formulating new products. We'll work with them to actually create those formulations and to actually piece together what ingredients need to go into that product. And then once we decide on, okay, this product is done and we've completed the process and we sign off on the end product, then they'll actually go in and actually manufacture the product for us.
Very cool. So are they able to handhold a client through this process, or do you need to have some kind of background or expertise in beauty before working with a beauty lab?
That's a really great question. And I think that one of the perks of working with at least the lab that we're working with is that their main focus is to actually create the product and make sure that it's safe and it works for everyone. And our main focus is to really take their creation or the creation that we've worked with them to build and market it. So they really want to focus on, they want to take the heavy lifting out of it and make sure that the product, does what it's supposed to do and works well and has a long shelf life and do all of that homework. While our focus is to really, how are we going to communicate this to our customers, and how are we going to get this product in our customers' hands, and how are we going to, make sure that it's what they want and they love it.
Awesome. So when they called you in and you started to work with the company, what did you start working on immediately? What was your main focus?
So the first week I started, it was, far before we actually had product in stock to sell. I knew coming in that I wanted to make sure the site was built on Shopify. That was the quickest and easiest decision that I made, just because I working for other e-commerce companies, I've seen kind of the pain of dealing with a lot of the back end stuff that you just don't have to deal with on Shopify. I didn't really want to deal with PCI compliance. I didn't really want to deal with hosting or any of that headache. And I really just wanted to focus on marketing the product. I had done enough research to know that was going to be really easy just to do on Shopify. So that was a quick and easy decision. And it's kind of embarrassing, but I spent my first few days at work going through the entire Shopify app store at the time. And not only using that as a tool to kind of decide, okay, what marketing channels should we really launch in? What's out there? What is there a pre-built integration for? So that I don't have to go out and try to find, a super expensive solution for it. So that was kind of my first order of business, was to go out and basically build a marketing plan that really just focused on what already existed within the Shopify community.
Yeah, I think this is a process that a lot of new Shopify store owners go through, is this to identify which apps, what kind of plugins they should tack onto their site. Did you choose any apps right away? Do you remember which ones you chose? I think this is a point that maybe some entrepreneurs get stuck at, which is what do they need to get started?
Yeah, so I think a couple of the apps I chose right away, Yotpo for reviews. I saw so many stores were using it. I was familiar with the tool myself, so it seemed like if so many stores are already using it, maybe there's something here. So let's not reinvent the wheel. Mm-hmm. We definitely used Yotpo. We used AdRoll for remarketing initially. Definitely Google Analytics. I'm definitely an analytics junkie, and having a free tool like Google Analytics is so helpful. So that was one of the tools we used. Initially, though, I don't think we have still use a ton of the tools that we used at the very beginning. There was an app called FOMO. I think it had a different name at the time, but now it's called FOMO, where it's basically an order alert system, so that there's a little pop-up that says, so-and-so purchased your product in Oregon today or something like that. And I remember thinking at the very beginning, being a brand new beauty company, there's so much competition in the beauty space, and how are we really going to stand out? And once we, create these amazing products, and once we start our process for advertising and everything, I wanted to make sure our store was a place that people would come to and trust. And I wanted to build that trust through a variety of ways, but I wanted the store to look very professionally done. I didn't want it to look like something we just threw up, quickly or haphazardly. And I wanted to make sure that customers knew that this was legitimate. So using that app FOMO was really helpful in the initial stages because people were able to see that other people were actually buying the product, and that really provided this social proof that it's a legitimate site.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea to provide that social proof to show that other people are trusting this brand, and by having reviews like you mentioned before, installing software for the review system, having all of that gives people that trust to trust in a new brand, trust in a new site. Can you talk a little bit more about this? Like what other I guess changes or what kind of conscious decisions do you make with the actual site itself to build trust when you have a brand new store, a brand new product?
So beyond just the reviews and the order notification app, I also made it a huge priority to immediately start A/B testing on the store. That's actually where a bulk of my experience has come from, was conversion rate optimization. And I knew that going into this with a brand new product, with brand new packaging, it's just brand new. And I knew that it was going to be very difficult to determine what exactly about our product is going to resonate with people. So immediately I actually signed up for an Optimizely account and started A/B testing on the website. And one of the first things we actually ran was testing product descriptions. So we had spent a bunch of time really focusing on our brand and our brand voice and how we wanted to describe these products. And ultimately, we received so much feedback from just friends and family that were, concerned about the way we were explaining the products and talking about them. And they said, your language is a little too fun. It's not quite functional. You need to be more descriptive about what the product actually does. And so we obviously took that feedback, and we didn't necessarily, shift gears, but what we did was we started to create more functional language, and then A/B tested the product descriptions on the website to really figure out what was resonating with people. And what we found is that people actually responded really well to the more fun branded content than they did the very literal, here's how you use this product information.
I think it's a great lesson to be learned that when people, especially people that aren't necessarily your customers, maybe friends and family, they have your best interest at heart, but they're not actually a lot of times your target customers. And they'll come along, of course, everyone wants to help and give their advice on how they want you to, not how they want you to, but how they suggest you message the product, write the product descriptions. And you guys didn't just take that information and run with it. You tested it out to see if it was actually going to work or not. I think that's a great insight. Now, you mentioned with A/B testing, I think this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of store owners want to start doing, but you need a good amount of traffic though, right? To get good use, to get enough data to make these decisions or run these tests to make these decisions. Were you already getting a good amount of organic traffic already, or was it through paid traffic to get the influx of data to begin A/B testing?
We definitely were running paid traffic. So I think most store owners can relate to the fact that you launch a store and you can't just sit there and wait, because it very rarely, picks up on its own unless you've started to build the buzz through a Kickstarter or something else. We didn't really have that. We didn't have any huge piece of press that came out immediately. We did do some sampling initially, but we always knew that doing paid media was going to be very important to getting our brand out there and to getting eyes on us. We also made traditional PR a very high priority in the beauty space. I think that it's very important that people see your brand in traditional publications as well as online publications, just to give it that credibility. And we also did work with influencers. So I think between the sampling, the PR, the influencers, and the paid media, which is a lot, that's where we started to really see the brand pick up speed and the traffic pick up. And that's when we were able to really, really test the market like that.
Yeah, one thing you had mentioned to me, I think offline in an email, was about how you were trying so many different things and you weren't exactly sure why things weren't picking up right away until it all came together through all these different efforts over time, kind of adding up to a point where people started recognizing the brand from multiple touch points. Talk us a little bit more about this. Like, how did that come about? How did that realization come about that you need to hit them on all these different kind of channels?
Yeah, so I think, initially we had, as with any product, you hear all these different stories about, oh, we just really focused on influencers. Oh, we just really focused on traditional PR, and everyone sort of has their niche channel. And I think, we kind of started slowly with a bunch of different channels, and nothing really took off on its own. So while we were getting a few traditional PR pieces, and we were, going out to influencers, and we would pay them to post, and we never really saw a big influx. Nothing really happened. And then we started running paid advertising, and again, things just started very slowly. And I think one of the challenges with the paid advertisement is that we were going and working with people who are highly experienced in doing, paid advertising. And again, just like those, friends and family who said that maybe our product descriptions weren't good enough, we were experiencing the same struggles with these very experienced paid advertisers, where they were saying, your product just doesn't resonate. You need to be more literal. You need to be more specific. Your product's too confusing. And, the feedback basically was always kind of blamed on this product. And what I learned was that, when I looked at the ads that they were running, it was very much, talking about the free shipping opportunity and the best deal and all these different, benefits to the products that just weren't really leading with what it was, which is coconut oil is amazing for you. We've built an amazing brand around it. We have amazing imagery that goes with that. With our products, they're in beautiful packaging. And I feel like they just they didn't trust the brand message and the brand imagery enough to lead with that. They were leading with the free shipping message, which is best practice, but it just wasn't working for us. So once I heard a few too many times how our product just wasn't really going to be able to be sold online and we needed to try to do it in stores, I just refused to believe it. We brought the paid advertising in-house, and I basically spent, day and night setting up ads and changing up the audiences and switching up the content and really testing the messaging that way. And over time, week over week, I saw it start to slowly ramp up. And in the meantime, we were also testing very, intermittently different influencers. We were getting very small press pieces. And then all of a sudden, we just saw this kind of spiral effect where all of the efforts started rolling together, and people started commenting on the paid advertisement that, oh, I saw this product on, this influencer's Instagram, or, oh, I read about this product on this particular blog. And that's when it kind of clicked that, wow, these products these mediums don't work in silo. They all work together. And you kind of need to have multiple touch points in order to really convince someone that your brand is legitimate and that they should be buying from you.
So all these channels, it makes sense that you want to touch them on all these different points, all these different mediums. But of course, this takes a ton of time. It sounds like you devote a ton of time to this, lots of effort, and of course, lots of capital as well. How did you manage all of this? Like, do you remember how long it took, or if you could share like how much budget it took early on before you started seeing this traction?
It definitely, I think from the time we took things, kind of took back control of the paid media and some of the influencer stuff, I think that I would say before, I remember sitting down exactly 30 days after I started and kind of showing the founders, okay, here's what's happening. Here's what happened the first week, and here's what's happening in week 4, and see how, while we're not necessarily, crushing it, we are seeing a really, upward trend of our return on ad spend. And we're really seeing this ROI very slowly creep in. And they kind of looked at me like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then basically, I would say 2 weeks after that, things really started to take off. And they realized, wow, this is okay. All this stuff is working in conjunction and working together. So it took a while. It took a lot of budget, and it took about 6 weeks. But what my recommendation would be for anybody who's testing this out is to really time it out so that all of these different efforts are hitting at the same time. And that was the key. And honestly, I don't think anyone really realized how important that was. At least I didn't, because I thought we would test the different channels, the different mediums, and say, okay, influencers, we tested this month and we saw this return. Traditional PR, we tested this month and we saw this return. And paid advertising, same thing. And it wasn't until we actually did it all at once that they all sort of helped each other and things really took off. So my best advice, especially on a limited budget, is to really make sure that everything's hitting at the same time. I mean, even the same day would be amazing. I know that's easier said than done, but just really like honing in and making sure that you can see your brand in multiple touch points at the same time, as opposed to kind of testing each channel individually.
And so for you would recommend, I guess I think this probably varies from product industry to industry, but for you and your experience, you would rather, spend, split up a budget in half and devote it to multiple channels than doubling down on just one channel, hit that same potential customer twice. Is that correct? From that, you rather split it up in two different channels than hit them twice from the same channel?
I really would. I would. I think that especially in beauty, just because it's so highly competitive and there are so many products out there. I think for women who are, so in tune with advertising, they're seeing it everywhere and they're out looking for their new products, and they're so inundated with so many different things that I think it's really important for women that they're seeing your brand in multiple touch points.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. So I think one thing that you mentioned earlier about how a lot of these agencies that you're working with were giving you essentially benefits that could really be applied to any brand, any product, because things like free shipping, things like, discounts, like all these things can be applied to any brand, any product. You recognize that you can't lead with that because it doesn't talk much about the brand and the product's benefits directly. Now, this testing process that you went through to understand what kind of messaging to create, talk to us about this. I think that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, is to how can they speak about their brand, speak to bring out the benefits of their product in a clearer way. How would someone even begin to go down this process of identifying how to message their product?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think for most new brands, people don't just create products out of nowhere. They create products to solve a problem. And they create products because they see a void in the space. And I think really highlighting how your product fills that void is just so important. I think that, again, no one's going to buy a product just because they get free shipping on it. That you have to convince them that they need the product in order for them to actually determine that they want to buy the product. And then the benefit is that they get the free shipping. That's not a reason to buy a product, though. No one's going to do that. And I think that really differentiating yourself from the other products on the market, and also just trusting your gut. If you really believe in your brand, and that was one thing I just didn't see with a lot of the partners we work with early on, is they didn't buy into the brand. They thought, we can sell anything, and this is kind of the blueprint for it, but there's really not a blueprint for it. Different benefits work with different products. And when we really doubled down on here's our brand messaging, and here are the benefits of our product, that's when people really resonated with that and decided to try the product. So I think definitely take all of the feedback that you're getting from your friends and family, or from, your consumers or everyone, but take it with a grain of salt, and don't shift gears just because, your cousin told you that she doesn't like the color of your packaging. That's the worst possible thing you can do, especially if you're very passionate about the products that you're creating.
Now, talk to us about tactically when you sit down to run a test, whether it be at the very beginning or even today. How do you think about it? How do you organize, or how do you set up a test?
That's a great question as well. So for me, we have a lot of very opinionated people at Kopari, a lot of people who are really passionate about the products and about how, why do they love it? And the great part about our brand, but also one of the challenges that we have, is that there are so many different benefits to the product. So it's multitasking, which is really great for some people. It's very, it works very, very well and better than most other products, which is great for other people. Some people just love the fact that it's a very natural product and they're not putting any chemicals in their body. So because of all this, what do you lead with? And that's been a big challenge for us over the past 15 months or so, is to figure out why are people actually buying this product? And of course, it's probably a combination of the three. But what we did was, when sitting down and really just kind of spitballing and talking about the hierarchy of our brand messaging, that's when I sort of took things back and said, why are we debating this? We could debate this at length. Let's just test it. And we definitely tested it on our website. We also tested it in our marketing and our advertising, just even swapping out the photos. Do we use a photo of the product sitting on a beach to really get people to feel like they're sitting on that beach when they use this product and smelling the coconut and everything? Or is it better to use the product or see the product when it's actually being applied onto someone's skin? Or is it better to look at it when it's actually in a studio that can relate to more people and during the winter? What is the best creative, and how can we really get that out there? And so that's been probably the most consistent, test that we've run along this entire process, both on the site, on the digital advertising, and we're learning something new from that every day. Even just, how old should the model that we use be?
Now, when you are running these tests off-site, is it mostly done through Facebook ads?
A lot of it is done through Facebook ads. We also run advertising on Pinterest, on Google AdWords, definitely a lot of display advertising as well.
Cool. So when you are running these tests, you make sure to tell us a little about this. Do you change just one element at a time, like just change the copy, just change the image, or do you try to make multiple tweaks at one time?
Definitely a mixture of both. So I think that if we have a really strong theory that we want to test about, we believe that people are buying, our coconut milk because it's, a multitasker, or it's just because it's all natural with no parabens or sulfates or anything, then we'll take the same imagery or video and we'll actually just change out the copy and really just test, okay, what is actually resonating here? Whereas sometimes, I hate to, as someone who's been testing for a long time, it's probably bad to say, but a lot of times you get quicker results if you really just change the entire thing up and change the photo, even just change the product that you're showing and kind of, vastly different creative, and then work backwards into, okay, so that definitely performed, but why did it? And work back by then kind of switching out the copy and the imagery to kind of narrow down what it was that actually, resonated.
I think it's a great point to work backwards, to just blow it out the water and start with something brand new and then pull away the layers to determine what actually makes a difference. I think doing that is also a little bit more, sometimes can be more motivating too, because sometimes it's a slog, right? To just change one thing at a time every single day, make one small tweak. So now when you do have a test ad out in the market, how do you determine if it's a winner or not? How long do you wait and what are you looking at?
So if you're using a tool, there are tools out there such as, like I said, Optimizely or Dynamic Yield, or the different tools for the on-site testing that they're going to tell you. So they're running all the statistical analysis on the back end, and they're going to say, this is a 95% chance of actually being statistically better performing than its counterpart. So that's a very, very, very helpful tool because it's doing all the heavy lifting for you, and you don't necessarily have to put a lot of thought into what's going on. Whereas when you're doing it with advertising, there are tools that will help you and manage these tests for you, but we're not currently using one that's actually going to say this is a clear winner, send all your traffic here. So it's really just a matter of not only allowing enough time to kind of go by. Usually we try not to let it go out for more than just a couple of weeks. And the thing with advertising is you get ad fatigue. So you can't really just find one winner and let it run for 6 months. It's not going to work. You're actually going to have to continue to that's why the testing process is just never finished. And you never see one ad that's just repeated for any brand. And they're always running multiple ads and multiple audiences to really see at what's resonating at what time during what point in the funnel. And it's kind of a never-ending process, which can be a little daunting, but lucky for me, I love it.
Yeah, so obviously a ongoing process that once you determine a winner, it's not just, okay, this one won and now let's move on to the next test. You actually want to make those changes in your messaging on your site, I guess through all of your branding as well, I guess depending on what you're testing. How do you manage that? How do you roll out a successful, if you determine a winner for a messaging, an image, something wins, how do you roll it out to the rest of, I guess, your assets?
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge, especially as the team, like our internal team, has been growing. It's a lot more difficult to actually, let everyone know, by the way, this is the winner and this is what we've determined works better than the opposite. Mm-hmm. And also, I mean, it's not just a matter of A works better than B. It's also a matter of what else is going on in the market. What time of year is it? What other advertising are we doing that could potentially be affecting this? So there is no real clear-cut answer. But what we've done internally to try to combat that is to sit down. We actually sit down every other week and we just have a conversation about it. We say, over the past 2 weeks, here's what's been working. We've seen this perform better than that. And we're actually working with the content creation team directly and saying, see this, see that. Now, as far as the digital marketing team, we're very into numbers and analytics. And then the content creation team is essentially taking this and taking our recommendations and seeing, okay, if this worked, why don't we try to get more video that looks like this, or more photography that looks like this. And then they're taking, our feedback and going out and getting new content to create that then we can go back and cycle through.
I like that you work with the content team, because it needs to change, right? You can't just let the content team run off without the analytics that you can provide to guide them on which direction to go. So you mentioned a couple products, Optimizely, which is one I'm familiar with for your I guess your on-site A/B testing. Talk to us a little more about this. What does this software do, and how do you use it?
So a tool like Optimizely or Dynamic Yield or any testing tool that goes onto your website. So a lot of them, I mean, I will admit, a lot of them are very similar. And what you do is essentially just install a code, JavaScript onto your backend, and then you use the actual dashboard within the tool to create your tests. And it actually goes in and sits on top of your code. So it'll change, the image or the text or the order or the design of the page directly on top of your actual page. So you're not making these changes in the back end of your website. You're actually doing it in their WYSIWYG editor through their dashboard. And then you're setting up the test. You're setting up who's actually going to see this test, who's going to be included in the test, what your goals are. So, 9 times out of 10, our goal is always going to be which one increases revenue the most, which variation increases the revenue the most. And then it's actually going to go in at, as soon as you start your test and auto divide your audience up randomly to determine, who gets to see what variation. And then essentially calculate the statistical significance of the results of the test. So which variation did generate the most revenue per visitor? And then and how likely is it that this isn't just due to chance and that this is actually a significant result and A is actually better than B?
So can you talk to us a little bit about a change that you've made recently to the site that has had a big impact on the conversion rate?
Yeah, sure. So we're always testing small things. I would say, we've just recently launched a new product line, and on our homepage banner, the first thing that, people see when they land on our homepage, we were testing whether or not it's better to have models or have products lined up. In that banner. So it's our new skincare line. And, in beauty, people want to see, before they buy your skincare, they want to see a beautiful model with very clear, beautiful, radiant skin who's using the product. And so we were testing out whether showing that photo of a model who's actually using the product would perform better than just having the actual lineup of the product sitting next to it. And it's actually quite interesting. So that's one, we're constantly testing different merchandising like that and just seeing how people respond to it. And then it's also really interesting when there might not be a big difference. And it really makes you think, why, do we need to go out and get this really expensive photography of models when sometimes the products work just as well as the model shots?
So a lot of time, I think, especially new store owners will rely or spend a lot of time focus on optimizing the ads themselves, the image, the copy, what product to show. Do you think that this is a better use of time, or would you suggest that they focus more on the on-site conversion rate optimization that you're talking about?
I think that depends on where they are as a business. I think that if you have enough traffic to your website, you should absolutely be prioritizing your on-site conversion rate, because there's absolutely no sense in paying for traffic that's not going to buy anything. However, I do think, especially even, just launching Kopari. So I was so focused on conversion rate optimization and making sure that our site was optimized for purchase. And then we kind of were left in a sense at the very beginning that, how are we going to actually get people to the site? So unfortunately, you kind of have to do both. I would say the priority should be your on-site conversion rate, just because, especially if you're paying for the traffic, you need to make sure that you're paying for traffic that's actually going to convert versus sending people, paying for traffic that's going to come to the website and not know what to do or not be convinced to buy the product.
And now, is there a threshold that you keep in mind where you recommend people start shifting their focus from paying for traffic to now optimizing the conversion rate on the site?
I will say you definitely need traffic, like you said, when you're working on site. You can't necessarily run a statistically significant test without a certain, threshold of traffic. And that, I would say that traffic, people say that and I say that, but I also think we definitely ran tests before maybe we had enough traffic to really determine, statistical significance, but we still learn from that and still learn from that messaging. So while yes, you might need, 50,000 visitors a month to actually determine, okay, this is a statistically significant and sound test that then we can then roll out to the rest of our company. I still think it's worth just testing and trying with a lower traffic number. You might not get that significance, but you will be able to gain some learnings about how people are responding to the website in different ways.
Now, I think you mentioned earlier about how the testing process is always ongoing because your customer changes, the attitude of the market changes, your product changes, your messaging changes. Now, do you ever go back and retest? Rerun an A/B test. If you determine that something's a loser, something's a winner, you cut out that loser, and never return back to trying it out again?
No, absolutely not. We definitely retest. And honestly, we retest most things, I will say. For example, when we initially launched and we had ran this test for that order notification app that we were running, and we found that it was, statistically significant. It increased sales at the very beginning, and we thought it was amazing. It's so useful. And we stopped the test and we ran, it for everyone. And then, we started to get a few more complaints about it, like, oh, this is kind of annoying. This pop-up keeps coming up. I don't really like it. So we retested it a few months later. And what we found was that it was so important to have that validation early on when so few people had seen and heard of our brand. And, maybe they saw an ad and they came to our site, but they weren't familiar with the brand. They'd never heard of us before. And they really needed that social proof. Then as we got a little bit bigger and as people started seeing our brand in multiple places and realizing that we were a legitimate source and we could, we got really great write-ups and a lot of, traditional press, all of a sudden they didn't need that social proof anymore. And it became annoying to them. So by retesting that, we learned that we didn't really need that anymore. So that's one very good example of where we did retest and found completely different results. And I think it makes sense too. But I'm always encouraging the team to retest things that we've already tested in the past. Obviously not just to create double work for people, but to also just learn how, as our brand has evolved and grown up and matured, how are people responding to it differently? And also, we're expanding our audiences a lot. So beyond just the people who are coming, who see us on Facebook, who are coming to the site from that, now we've got people coming to the site from many different avenues, and they might feel very differently about our messaging and our product than the customers that are coming from Facebook or the customers that are coming from any particular influencer or whatnot. So knowing that your audience is constantly changing, as well as just your brand as a whole, I certainly don't. We're the same brand that we were, but we might not need certain, social proofs or certain messaging to really describe who we are today, because we have a little bit more brand awareness in the community.
Yeah, I think that's a great point about the importance of going back and A/B testing, just going back and rethinking if you should continue doing something or not. Because what got you to the current level might be a detriment to get you to the next level, because these order notification pop-ups that you're seeing makes a lot of sense early on. But then once you get yourself established, you see these big beauty brands, their site definitely doesn't have that kind of stuff on it. And if you want to be seen on that same tier, you have to kind of represent yourself in that same way. So I think that's a reason why you want to go back and reevaluate whether you want to continue sticking with the winner, or maybe you need to maybe a loser, or I guess an A/B test. The alternative is a better option this time around. That makes a ton of sense. Now, one thing you mentioned to me I think in an email as well, was about how one of the keys to the success early on was to get access to early adopters. You mentioned that most people need to hear about brands from multiple sources, which we covered, including their friends, before they take the plunge to purchase. But then there are early adopters that want to try something new, are bold and are excited to try something new and be one of the first people to try something new. And those are your first customers and are your most loyal customers today. So talk to us about this. How did you come to that realization that that's where the focus should be on, is those early adopters?
I think first of all, you being a brand new company, you have to assume that even just look around to your 5 closest friends, and you'll probably see that maybe one or a few of them are someone who's going to jump in and try a new product. And they're the ones who are actually going to come back and say, you guys got to try this. It's amazing, whether it be a product or an experience or a restaurant or whatever it is. And I think we can all kind of relate to that idea that either, it might be you in your group of friends, or it might be someone else that, you always have someone who's kind of talking about the latest and greatest. And I think the same goes for kind of the audience of who's actually purchasing your products. I know for example, that, for me, I'm probably not going to go out and buy a brand new product unless I've heard from, maybe I trust my sister the most, and I think she has the best beauty products. So she's going to come to me and say, have you tried this? You need to try it, and then I'm going to actually go try it. Whereas a lot of, some people are actually going to walk into a store or just go online kind of searching for these new products. And that's why, the YouTube beauty bloggers are so popular, because they're people just looking for new products to try and to tell their friends and family about. So what we found was that, early on when we were getting a bunch of sales and we were getting really excited by this influx, what we found was that a lot of these people were then going out and sharing our social media and our advertisements, and they were talking about us on Twitter, and they were kind of joining this groundswell, and they were doing a lot of the work organically for us, because they were telling all of their friends and family about this product that, that we didn't really have to go and acquire their friends. They were doing it for us. So that was really amazing. And then what we realized was that, these are the people that even today, or we haven't been launched that long, but still today are coming back and saying, I've been buying this product for 9 months, since their beginning, since the very, they were in our first 100 purchasers, and they're still coming back and they're still talking about it, because everybody wants to be the cool friend who found the cool new product. Or at least I shouldn't say everybody, but this personality type definitely does. And we're learning that those people who really seek out that new latest and greatest product are the ones that are going to become the most loyal, because they feel like they're a part of your brand and your story, and they are a part of your brand and your story. You speak to them on the phone. We reach out to a lot of our top customers, or at least even our early customers, and just ask them questions. What do you think of the product? How is the packaging working for you? Do you like the smell? Just really getting their feedback, and then they become really invested in your brand, and they feel like they're a part of it, because they are, and they're so important to each company. As you're so small and you're able to really do that and reach out and talk to people on a one-to-one level, those people become your most loyal customers, I think for life.
So now, does your marketing change when you move from going after early adopters to, I guess, the masses?
That's an excellent question. I think that yes and no. I think that just in the same way that different audiences want, they're going to need different proof that your product is legitimate. So I think that for for those early adopters, they want to see what makes your product different, what makes your product unique, what makes your product, stand out of a crowd, how does your product make you feel, et cetera. Whereas as you move maybe further away from those people who are willing to try this new product, they want to see that social proof. So maybe they want to see those order notifications, or maybe they want to see a quote from a customer in your advertising, or maybe they're really focused and they want to read through the customer reviews on your website. So I do think there's a little bit of shift in messaging. However, you still want to stay true to your brand and not totally change based on that.
Now, and is there a way to actively seek out these early adopters, or did they just, I guess, organically are the first ones to be attracted to your new brand?
I think it's a little bit of both. I definitely think that it's sort of just an organic attraction because they're the ones who are going to try it first. However, you can definitely go out and really look for people. I think by kind of, browsing around the internet and going to popular blogs and going to popular YouTubes, you can kind of see who's talking and who's jumping in and saying, oh, I want to try that, or oh, I want to try this. And I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to really, kind of scour and reach out to people that way. Certainly a very manual process, but I think it would be worth it because I think those are the people who are going to be the early adopters and who are going to try a product that might not have the brand awareness of other products. And then, of course, there's more, scientific ways to do it, which would be to kind of build out some lookalike audiences and different advertising channels to really see if you can find common themes between these early adopters and expand your reach of them. Awesome. So KopariBeauty.com is a website, KOPARIBEAUTY.com. What are the plans for the next year? Where do you want to see the brand go to in the next year? So we just recently launched in all Sephora stores, which is really exciting for a brand of our age. We're very, very young to be lucky enough to have the opportunity to launch in all of these stores. So that just happened about a couple weeks ago. So we're really focused on, not only our digital channel and getting people to try the product, but for the people who aren't necessarily going to want to try a beauty product by ordering it online first, we're really hoping that this outlet in Sephora is able to give them the chance to walk into the store and to grab a tester and try the product, smell the product, feel the product, and really expand our reach. I think our number one goal for 2017 is definitely to raise our brand awareness and to just gain credibility with the women in the beauty community. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Megan. Thank you, Felix. Here's a sneak peek of what's in store for the next Shopify Masters episode.
Now they're selling $400, $500 orders at a bakery in a grocery store. Those are numbers they never saw before, and that's on one order.
Thanks for listening to Shopify Masters, the e-commerce marketing podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs. To start your store today, visit shopify.com/masters to claim your extended 30-day free trial.